Hey everybody, this is Doug with Artfully Rogue. So I am working on a project that is a waterfall slash planter combination. And while I was building it, the thought kind of hit me that if I take this top section that's designed for the planter, I bet I can put a fire pit in there. It already has the holes. It seems to be the right size. So the guys from easyfirepits.com and I connected, and they hooked me up with some parts and pieces that will help me make this fire pit. So what they sent me was this gas valve, which is kind of what you'd see on a gas fireplace, where you have the cover, you have the key, and then you have the actual valve itself. So we'll find a place to put that here in a little bit. You also have the propane regulator with its own shutoff, which is kind of cool. Then they sent me 3 packages that have a 4-inch threaded nipple, a brass fitting, and some PFT tape. I got another second bag of the same thing, and so they also sent me a 36 and a 60-inch rubber hose for the gas line connections. And then they sent me 2 long 36-inch burners with a couple of 12-inch whistle-free, high-pressure flexible hoses. So I want to turn this planter portion into a fire pit, and I want to do an H-style burner. Now, easyfirepits.com sent me the single burners, but I'm going to take this galvanized T, and we're going to put that right in the center, and then we'll be able to join that with these small pipe nipples. So I'm going to go ahead and take some of the gas pipe tape, and we're going to wrap all of these galvanized lines. That way we do a proper seal. But this is called, I believe, PTFE tape. It's similar to Teflon tape that you'd use in plumbing, but this is specific to gas line operations. So I'm going to give each fitting a couple of wraps before we actually make the connections. This planter project was ordered by a client that's out in California, and we actually delivered 2 of these planters to her. Now she has planters on the top portion. There's a waterfall on the bottom portion. If you're interested to see what that project looks like, you'll be able to click the link up here in this video to see what the overall product looks like. But we're also turning this piece into a reflection pool type fountain as well. So you're going to have 3 options on this particular product. A bottom waterfall, which is consistent throughout the entire line. Then you can put in the planter, the fire pit, or another reflection pool. So it's kind of a new product for us, and it was just kind of fun to make. So I'm going to go ahead and get these put together, and then we'll move on to the next step. So like all gas connections, you want to make sure that they're extremely tight. You don't want to over tighten so you strip the threads, but as you can see here, I'm using a pipe wrench to tighten these fittings up as tight as I can. Now I want to make sure that these are all going to sit proper in orientation. I've just got to pay attention to where the holes are in the burner and where it's going to sit in the pan so that all the flames are where they need to be. So this is where I'll use my pipe wrench to kind of get that all dialed in. This allows me to use 1 gas source as opposed to having to fill 2 gas lines separately. Now, I didn't show this here in the video, but I did drill some holes into that center T to help allow gas to come out closer to the middle. So when I put the igniter in, it sparks up easier. Now this is a fitting that easyfirepits.com sent me. It is a 4-inch threaded nipple with some flat threaded washers. These things are pretty cool. When I first took them out of the package, I wasn't sure that they were threaded, but they just look like washers. Now they sent this kind of pre-wrapped, which is cool. So I'm just going to put that right into the T-fitting. This is going to help me attach the burners to the pan through that hole. So what I want to do is I'm going to put on the flat washer and get past the point where I would probably use the pipe wrench on it and tighten down this 4-inch threaded nipple. I'm really hoping that I don't destroy the threads on this nipple with the pipe wrench. You just have to be super careful. I'm trying not to put too much tension, but at the same time, make sure that it is as tight as it should be. Later on in the video, we're going to go ahead and test all of the connections with a leak detector, so we'll make sure that there are no leaks. I'm going to give it a little spin here, and looks like I got lucky. The pipe wrench did not damage the threads, so we're good to move forward. Now this way I can take this piece that I just made and we're going to put it directly into the fire pit pan. Now it gets a little bit awkward here with me holding the pan and trying to get the fire burner into the pan and secured, but with a little fumbling around I'm able to make it work. And so yeah, you just put the 4-inch nipple through any of the holes that you're going into your fire pit. You take that threaded washer, you tighten that up against the bottom of whatever you're using, and then you have a fire pit burner that's attached to where it needs to go. Now at this point I realized, okay, I don't want it to sit this low, so I'm loosening the bottom and then I'll loosen the top so it raises the burner inside the pan and gives me a little bit more height. The pan that I'm using right now is about 6 inches deep. It doesn't necessarily need to be this deep, but it's what I used for the planter on the other project, and so I just want to be able to adjust the burner itself and not necessarily adjust anything in the planter. I want to be able to have the planter and the fire pit and the reflection pool portion just be interchangeable. So if somebody places an order, they can say, oh, we want to change the planter at this point and put in a fire pit. We can just send them the fire pit portion. So I'm trying to use some channel locks here. It's kind of hard to get a good grip on the flat edges, but it does tighten it enough that it's going to stay where it needs to stay. I do get to a point now, I'm just like, okay, the heck with it, it's tight enough. Make sure to stick around for the entire video so you can get the latest coupon code from easyfirepits.com. Okay, I am going to be adding a brass fitting to the bottom of this 4-inch nipple that we have here. So I'm putting the pipe tape around this as a sealer for the gas line. So I'm going to use this brass adapter that easyfirepits.com sent. This goes from pipe thread to flare fitting. Flare fittings typically are used in gas lines. And so this is where it goes from the fire burners. That'll take it then to the gas lines. Now something that should be noted here, anytime you use a fitting that is a flare fitting, now you can tell that it's a flare fitting because of the bevel on the end, you do not need any type of pipe tape. All right, now you see I've used pipe tape on the 4-inch nipple that the brass fitting goes into, but when I attach the hose to this brass fitting, because it's a flare fitting, I will not add the tape. You just want to make sure that your connections are nice and snug so that they don't have any chances of leaking. Now I'm going to use the 36-inch rubber hose that Easy Fire Pits sent to me, and that's going to go directly from this brass fitting and into the gas valve. But we're going to attach this piece first, and then we're going to move on to the next step of this process. Again, you want to make sure that you're nice and tight. I'm going to get a couple of wrenches on this just to make sure that it's a nice tight fit. Okay, so this is your valve. You have the valve cover, and you're going to see arrows on the valve itself. This shows you the flow of gas. I'm going to take the 36-inch rubber hose and I'm going to connect it to the valve. Now on the other side there's going to be another hose, and that's going to go to the regulator, which then goes to the propane tank. So you go propane tank, regulator, hose, valve, hose, fire burner. Let's go outside. So I popped a hole in the core tin cover. I'm using a PVC spacer that will allow me to tighten the valve and the valve cover into this core tin sheet metal. I place the cover into the core tin cover, and then I'm going to take the PVC spacer and I'm going to put that over the core tin cover valve inside. Now this allows me to tighten the valve into the valve cover. Now you see I have one of the flat threaded washers. Once I get my valve where I want it, I can tighten up that washer and my valve's installed. The valve cover and the valve itself can be just hand tight because there's no gas actually running through that section. Now I'm using an elbow adapter that takes me from the flare fitting from the valve and then gives me a male flare fitting that I can connect a hose into. Now in your situation it may be slightly different. You may not need the elbow. You might be able to go straight into the valve with your rubber hose. Now again, I'm going to do a 2-wrench method here and tighten up the flare fitting so that it's super tight. So now I'm back in the shop with the planter top, and I'm going to go ahead and install this igniter that I picked up from Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description. It didn't come with a clamp or any type of device to hook it into the planter, so I'm going to have to make something that will allow you to connect the igniter right kind of in that center position. Now you can see I did drill holes in that T, and here's that galvanized piece that I just made. I just took basically just a piece of galvanized strapping and I bent it into a Z. That allows me to connect the igniter plate kind of like that. Usually it comes with little nuts and bolts, and you can just bolt that right onto the igniter plate. And then once I have this attached, I can screw this bracket directly into the fire pit box, kind of somewhere right there. So your situation, you might have to get a little creative, but you see what I'm doing here. So here I am going to drill the hole for the actual igniter switch. I'm putting it right next to the valve. You just make sure that you're not going to drill through your cover or whatever object you're drilling through, and you don't want to hit the valve. You don't want to hit the hoses. Make sure you got a free open spot back there. And I'm just going to use a stepper bit to open that hole up a little bit better, so I can get a nice tight fit with the igniter button. If you don't know what these stepper bits are, these are great to have in your shop. A lot of times you do have to create a pilot hole for them, but as opposed to changing tons of bits, you can really just use this stepper bit until you hit the diameter that you're looking for. Now a lot of times I use my stepper bits in stainless, which really trashes them. Typically they'll go through this material much quicker. So that was a quick test fit with the igniter. It comes with a little plastic nut. What you're going to do is you're going to come in from behind and you are going to place that through the hole. You take that plastic nut and you're going to tighten that igniter right into its space. And before you put the cap back on, you want to make sure that you put a battery in there. Now this particular one takes a AAA battery, and I'm going to put the AAA battery in. And this has a little spring, so you push and then you thread that in place, and then you can actually push the button and hear it click, 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 and you know that it's working. Okay, so now we're going to go on the inside. We're going to make our connections. So the hose that I have right now, this is coming directly from the fire pit pan. All right. So I'm going to put that in place. Then we're going to take the one that's coming from the actual propane tank. We're going to put that in place. Again, pay attention to the arrows on the valve. This is going to tell you the gas flow direction. So where my hand is right now, the gas comes in that side and goes out the other side. So here's my propane tank with the regulator valve. That hose goes into the Cortin box cover where you just saw me hook all that mess up. So now we're going to go ahead and test for leaks. So I'm using a leak detector from Odie. It's really easy to use. You just take the lid off. There's an applicator here, and you'll just spread that wherever the connection is. And if there's a leak, it'll bubble up. All right, now we're going to try these connections first, and we're going to kind of work our way through the system. First, I'm going to turn the gas on. So now the gas goes into the regulator. Then I'm going to turn the valve on that goes into the hose. So now I've got gas in the hose. This is the place I want to test my connections. I don't see any bubbles, so we are good there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go inside the core tin box and we're going to test the leaks there. This is the line coming from the propane tank into the valve. No bubbles there. And here you can actually see the igniter wires connected into the back of the igniter. Super simple, push fit. All right, you can't see it in the screen, but I'm testing the other side. You can kind of see it dripping down over there. I didn't have any leaks there as well. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn on the gas here at the valve. Now this is at the pan. So we now have gas coming through. I want to test this to see if we have any leaks here. Now you can't hear it, but there's gas coming out of the burners right now. But I don't have any leaks here, so we're good to move forward. So everything's connected. Gas is turned back off again, but we're going to put this planter fire pit pan into the overall piece. And now we're going to go ahead and fill the base with pea gravel. Now, when I talked to easyfirepits.com, they said that you do not want propane to accumulate in the pan, so fill the pan with pea gravel, then some lava rock, and then you want to put in your decorative rock glass. Now, you may have to kind of play around. You don't want the holes on the burners to get clogged or blocked or whatever. But, you know, that's something that you can work with fairly easy. I'm using a white decorative fire glass here. I use a couple of bags. I'm doing this strictly for the video. The client already has her planter combo, and this is totally just to see what it looks like back at the shop. Now you can kind of see there's water on the exterior of the fire pit pan. That's the lower portion of the waterfall. And so that will operate as a waterfall. This will operate as a fire pit. Okay, with all of the rock in place, we just need to test it. I had to clear out the little center area so the igniter could get to the gas. But as you see, the fire is now starting to catch throughout the entire thing. It seems like it takes a bit to filter through all of the rock, but for the first attempt, I'm pretty pleased with it. Now make sure to check the description for the latest coupon code from firepits.com. And I want to say thank you to everybody who has taken the time to watch this video. It is greatly appreciated. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. That'd be very helpful. If you'd like to leave a comment, I try to get back to them all. And if you like what you saw, you got something out of it, give me a thumbs up and help YouTube pass this on to other people. See you in the next video.